All right, hello to all of our Kittrell 5th graders. Today I'm going to do a little mini lesson with you about something we have already talked about once this year, but it's always good to come back to it, and there's always ways that you can add on to your learning. So today we're going to be talking about comparing and contrasting. So comparing is when we say how things are the same, and contrasting is when we say how they are different. So if we look here, when this says compare, these are words that we would use to show how something or things are the same. So like, same, both, similar, equally, also, in common, as well as. If we are going to contrast or say how they are different, these are keywords right here. So we have different, dissimilar, as opposed to, although, while, instead of, on the other hand, however. Now, we have talked in the past about using Venn diagrams to help us compare and contrast. So here, I could type like, this is going to be kind of hard, but I could type here like frogs. And then, so in there we could put frogs. That didn't really work how I wanted it to, but you get what I'm saying. Like if we had this printed out, this could say frogs. Right here, it could say lizards. And everything in this circle, we would write that is unique just to frogs. Everything in this circle, we would write everything that is just unique to lizards. And in the middle is where they overlap or how they are the same or similar. Now, when we come to here, this is a way that we can compare and contrast different characters in a story. So let's say we all read the book Holes. So here I could put the character of Stanley, right? Here I could put the character of Zero. And then here we could compare, and then here we could contrast. So Stanley and Zero. And then when it says compare, ways they are the same. People underestimate both of them. They are both, at the end, good friends to each other. For contrasting, Stanley knows how to read, Zero doesn't. Just all kinds of things. So this is a way that you can help yourself when you are comparing characters in a story. Now, this is a way to actually compare and contrast actual different stories. So let's say here I wanted to put Holes, and here I wanted to put Number the Stars. So for compare, we would put the way that those two stories are the same, are the way they are similar. For contrast, we would put how they are different. Now with Holes and Number the Stars, we would be able to find a lot more ways that they are different than the ways they are similar, but it would still help us organize our thoughts. And this is for character or story elements. So you could say, this is the story Holes. Here's the characters, here's the setting, here was the problem, here was the solution. So in story, Holes. Characters, we had Stanley, Yelnats, we had Zero and their families and a bunch of other people. Setting, Camp Green Lake. Problem, Stanley has really bad luck and they have no water and he's trying to figure out a way to prove that he's innocent. Solution, him and Zero run away. They end up breaking the curse of Madame Zeroni and everything comes together at the end. For this one over here for story, I could put Number the Stars. Characters are the two main girls, well, the main one girl. Setting, it's in Denmark during World War II. Problem, they are trying to keep the Jews of Denmark safe from the Nazis. Solution, they help sneak them onto her uncle's boat and get them to freedom, right? So that's a way to do that. Now, we've talked about there are oftentimes a lot of themes that we get from different stories or books or movies. And these are just common themes that we find throughout different things that we read. Ooh, my hair's a mess. Sorry, guys. One common theme or message, remember, theme is like the message in the story, could be always be kind to others. Good can come from bad. Crime doesn't pay. Be careful what you wish for. All of these things are just different themes. And sometimes it's nice to just have this in front of us so we can remember what are some of the themes. Another thing is different topics. So instead of a specific message like honesty is the best policy or hard work will be rewarded, sometimes the theme is just being yourself or friendship or never giving up, things like that. So this is in front of you as well. So you can look at this. You can look at the other page if you ever need a refresher of just, what are different themes. What we're going to do today is I'm going to read you 2 stories, and then we are going to answer some questions about it using some terminology that we just talked about. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And this says stories, myths, and traditional literature. So this first story is The Woodcutter, which is a folk tale from Pakistan. So a folk tale is kind of like a story that's been passed down, amongst different families, and folk tales generally have some sort of lesson. So to myself, I'm going to think, okay, I need to be thinking about a theme while I'm reading this that could possibly help me understand the story more. So first we're just going to read it. The Woodcutter, a folk tale from Pakistan. Once upon a time, there was a man named Alex. He was a woodcutter, which meant that he earned his living by cutting trees in the forest. He was a very poor man, but he was always honest. One day, Alex was cutting down trees near the river when his axe fell in. Alex started to panic, as he couldn't afford to buy a new axe, so he quickly swam into the river to find it. Sadly, it was gone, and Alex started to cry. Suddenly, a fairy appeared from the river and asked Alex why he was so sad. After explaining the story, the fairy went inside the water and returned with a golden axe. She asked Alex if it was his, but he refused to take it, explaining that it didn't belong to him. Then the fairy went into the water and brought out a silver axe. Again, Alex refused to take it. Finally, the fairy brought Alex his wooden axe, which he accepted happily. Seeing his honesty, the fairy gave him the gold and silver axes as well. When Alex's greedy friend Sam noticed that Alex's life had changed for the better, he became very anxious to know the reason behind this. After Alex explained what happened, Sam decided to throw his axe into the river. When the fairy appeared, Sam lied to her and told her that he lost his axe by accident. The fairy went into the water and brought him a gold axe. Sam happily accepted that axe and told the fairy that it belonged to him. As Sam walked down the path to the gold seller's shop, the gold axe magically changed into his wooden one. So in the story at the beginning, it's talking about this man. He's poor. This is his life. He loses his axe. A fairy comes to help him, and she's like, hey, is this gold axe yours? And if he wasn't so honest, he could have just said yes, but he was like, nope, I'm going to be honest, that's not mine. And then she's like, okay, well, how about the silver one? And if you don't have a lot of money and you're really needing money and you're in a tight spot, it could have been easy to be like, yep, that's mine. But he didn't. He was honest, and in the end, his honesty was rewarded by getting the gold and silver axes. His friend at the end was greedy and decided to lie and say, oh yeah, that's definitely mine. But he wasn't rewarded, and in the end, he ended up with his old thing that he had started with. Now, this other story we are going to read is called The Shepherd's Boy, and it is a fable by Aesop. So I don't know if a lot of you have heard anything by Aesop. He has a lot of things. They're called like Aesop's fables. We were going to read some of those at school this year, but that got changed a little bit. So we will read this, okay? And then we'll kind of compare the 2 stories. So it says, a young shepherd boy tended his sheep at the base of a mountain near a forest. The shepherd boy often became bored and decided upon a plan by which he would get a little company and some excitement. One day he raced towards the village, calling out, "Wolf, wolf!" Hearing his cries, all of the villagers rushed out to help him. This pleased the boy so much that a few days later he tried the same trick again. Once more the villagers came to his help. Soon afterwards, a wolf actually did come out of the forest to eat the sheep. The boy again cried out at the top of his lungs, "Wolf, wolf!" But this time the villagers, who had been fooled twice before, thought the boy was deceiving them, and nobody bothered to come to his help. So the wolf made a good meal of the boy's flock. When the boy complained, the wise man of the villagers said, "A liar will not be believed, even when he speaks the truth." So this one has a message too, right? If you're constantly tricking and telling people lies, they're never going to believe you, even when it comes to the time that you are telling the truth. So the way we're going to talk about these two stories is, so right here it says, what is the theme of these stories? So kind of the first one we said was, honesty is often rewarded. So for the first guy, he was rewarded, Alex, by getting the gold and silver axes. Sam was not rewarded, right? And in the second one, we could almost kind of say the same thing, honesty is rewarded, but in the case of the shepherd boy, his deceit was not rewarded, right? Like he wasn't believed. It said, "A liar is never believed, even when he speaks the truth." So they are both about how telling the truth or not telling the truth can affect you in different ways. So then the next one says, what is the author's purpose? Persuade, inform, or entertain. Now, I could see how you could make a case for all of these. To entertain, you could say, oh, they just wanted to tell us a fun story. And I know this because there was just some fun elements in the story. Okay. It could be to persuade us to tell the truth. I think this for how do you know? I think this because he's trying to say that, honesty is rewarded at the beginning, and in the end, the liar is not believed. Or you could just say it's to inform us and, teach us a lesson that we shouldn't be lying. We should always be telling the truth. The next question down here, I believe, is what does the story remind you of in real life? And that would just be a text-to-self connection. So that would be a time of, when is a time you were either rewarded for your honesty, or when is a time that you were trying to trick someone and you maybe kept telling a couple little fibs and then no one actually believed you. So that's how we would do that short exercise. For our next lesson, I'm going to read you another story, and then I'm just going to have you kind of try to answer these questions on your own. You won't have to write anything down. It'll just be kind of for you to practice and see how you can do. So today we were talking about comparing and contrasting and theme and author's purpose and connections that we can make to a text. So we did a lot in this one video, but I hope it was worthwhile for you. So let me see here. See you guys later. Mrs. Miller is trying to figure out how to stop this video. So let's see if we can do this. We're going to